I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but there are a lot of rumors swirling around, misinformation, real information about the future of the DC studios under James Gunn and Peter Safran. Now, there is some information out there that has absolutely been confirmed. There are some rumors out there, but I'm going to talk about this article from the direct.com, kind of linking a bunch of stuff up together regarding the future of the Justice League. It appears that there's going to be lots of recasting. Likely the entire cast of the Justice League will fully be recast for the DCU. I've also got what looks to be the confirmation of the new logo for DC Studios. Believe it or not, I'm a little bit of a geek. You're a geek. And there's some information that we can glean from this logo and perhaps the future direction of DC Studios under James Gunn and Peter Safran. First up, let's talk about this article. A new report suggests that DC Studios intend to recast the Justice League cast for the new DCU. Through a bombshell announcement on Twitter, James Gunn confirmed Henry Cavill would not be playing Superman in the rebooted DCU. The Hollywood Reporter's recent article went on to note how Gunn and Safran met with Cavill ahead of time. The two executives also had similar talks with Batman's Ben Affleck and discussed the possibility of directing, while Aquaman's Jason Momoa discussed playing a new role, as reports swirled that his Aquaman character would also be recast. Even though Gunn has yet to formally announce that Affleck and Momoa are being recast, the fact that these conversations took place suggests as much. Gal Gadot continuing on as Wonder Woman is also unlikely, especially since the studio is not moving forward with Wonder Woman 3, and The Flash has reportedly cut Gadot's cameo. We've also heard that they've cut the Ben Affleck Batman cameo from that film as well. It appears, I think we kind of could have expected that. Once you saw Wonder Woman 3 was canceled, once you saw the announcement that Henry Cavill was out as Superman, that likely everything to do with the Snyderverse was being jettisoned. They're getting rid of all of it. The only thing that I could possibly see even coming back, perhaps, is Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, because we know that she is a James Gunn favorite, and probably maybe John Cena as Peacemaker, because he was involved with that production. You know, he wrote the series. Apparently, he likes John Cena. John Cena was in the starring role, so I could see that one probably coming back. But any major announcements or hirings that started under the Zack Snyder, Snyderverse, all that stuff, it appears that it's going all by the wayside, and they're restarting over. But really, the writing was on the wall. I think we could all see this one coming. They needed a hard reboot. They needed to get rid of everything that didn't work, and even the stuff that did work. The one thing Zack Snyder did that was really good is, for the most part, he cast the Justice League very well. The only casting that I don't think was done well really was Ezra Miller as Flash. Even Jason Momoa, who doesn't feel like Aquaman, he had a presence as Aquaman, and he was certainly entertaining. I know some people didn't like Ray Fisher's Cyborg, but if you watch that Joss Whedon version of Justice League, I think that's the only part of the movie that works, is the Ray Fisher Cyborg story. Everything else about the movie absolutely sucks. And that's why they kind of just have to get rid of all of it. There just wasn't enough working within the Snyderverse to make any of it really salvageable. Why would you want to keep it around? It's just reminders of all the failure in the past from the DCEu. And they're not the DCEu anymore. They're the DCU now. They're not DC films anymore. They're DC Studios. And I think they want their own unique identity under James Gunn and Peter Safran. And they're going to have to fight for that to make people forget just how bad and incoherent the DCEU really was. Now, it sounds like we might be getting some recasting involving Henry Cavill and Jason Momoa. The rumors have been swirling around, and James Gunn has certainly thrown a little gasoline on that rumor that Jason Momoa will be taking over as Lobo. That would make sense. Who Henry Cavill would play within the DCU besides Superman, I'm not really sure. We shall see. But it sounds like there's going to be opportunities for him in the future. And it sounds like they really want to bring Ben Affleck in to direct a movie. We know he was supposed to direct a Batman solo film starring himself with Deathstroke in it. Obviously, that never came to pass, but maybe you get a Deathstroke movie directed by Ben Affleck or something like that. I don't think he'll be working with Batman because it sounds like that's Matt Reeves' baby right now, and I imagine they have some deals locked up. And Matt Reeves is not exactly like a small name in Hollywood. He's got some success behind him, certainly working with franchises and rejuvenating franchises, which is what they're going to have to do with the DCU. But if you were a fan of that Justice League and those actors playing those characters, you are going to be very sad. It's not going to happen anymore. They're basically all jettisoned out. It's all but confirmed at this point. If you're a fan of the Snyderverse and you've been holding out hope that the Snyderverse would be restored or elements of it would remain intact in the DCU, you are not going to be very happy. They are not going to do any of that. They're doing a clean break, which is the smartest thing James Gunn and Peter Safran can do. It's also worth noting One member of the Justice League cast was highly unlikely to continue regardless, and that's Ezra Miller. While The Flash is yet to release, his actions and legal problems have seemingly brought his DC career to an end. With 2023 mere weeks away, fans are sure to hear more about what Gunn and Safran have planned for the total reboot of the DCU soon. Absolutely. James Gunn has already said in the early part of January 2023, I'm imagining it's going to be the first or second week, we will see the plan, the 10-year plan for what his vision of the DCU is. It's been mapped out. Apparently, it's been approved by Zaslav. This is not just going to be movies. It's going to be movies, streaming, television, cartoons, as well as video games. Apparently, it's all being connected nowadays. I think that's a pretty big gamble. Do you want to destroy your Arkham franchise so that you can connect it to a movie franchise that maybe doesn't take off? Do you really need everything on HBO Max tied into the DCU? It has not worked out for the MCU so far. I would say the MCU on Disney Plus is a total bust. Across the board, everyone is severely underwhelmed. They are not impressed because Kevin Feige and the MCU were not able to make this thing coherent. They were not able to tie everything together and make everything feel important. And I think it was a mistake tying everything Marvel-related on Disney Plus into the MCU itself. They probably should have done something a little bit smaller, tied it in maybe like the Netflix Daredevil franchise, where you had the Defenders, you had Luke Cage, you had Iron Fist, Jessica Jones. You work with a few cool characters and you do something smaller scale. But they're not going to do that, and the DCU is not going to do that under James Gunn. They're going big or going home, baby. And we know James Gunn is writing that Superman movie. Superman is priority number one. We've also got some teasers regarding the logo for DC Studios. As DC Studios moves forward with its rebranding efforts under new CEOs James Gunn and Peter Safran, the first tease of the studio's new logo appeared when Harley Quinn producer Patrick Schumacher posted a selfie with him wearing a hoodie that seemed to reveal a new logo for DC Studios. This logo reveal may have been premature, as Schumacher deleted this photo shortly after sharing it online. This logo centers around the studio name, featuring 6 of DC's top heroes on the sides. Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Superman stand tall on the left side, while Batman, The Flash, and Aquaman are on the right. Fans of DC Comics are going to notice that those silhouettes look like the New 52 Justice League, right? That is the image that we got with the New 52 and the Justice League. But there's one thing missing. If you go and you look at the New 52 Justice League, Cyborg is there. It appears that Cyborg is no longer going to be a part of that team. Now, are they going to go to the New 52 era as the inspiration for the new DCU? If that is the case, and I highly doubt that it is, but they are using imagery and iconography associated with that version of DC Comics, that would be a huge mistake. There were really only a handful of series that were really good during New 52. Aquaman, Green Lantern, and Batman. Sure, you're going to get Court of Owls. Sure, you're going to get some Blackest Night and stuff like that, but you're going to get a whole lot of crap that nobody's ever going to watch. That version of Superman was fucking awful. Just the worst version of Superman you could ever imagine. That better not be the inspiration for the DCU Superman under James Gunn, because that will be a huge mistake. The New 52 was certainly successful for about 15 months, and then it fell apart because the stories sucked. They better be using it as inspiration for the visuals and not for the stories, because there's no stories to mine there. It's like the MCU right now going to all new, all different Marvel. And Marvel Legacy, for the inspiration for the stories and the characters that they're telling right now, that's why the MCU sucks. There's no good stories in that era. There was one story Marvel produced at that time that was worth telling. Gore the God Butcher, and they already blew it by giving that to Taika Waititi. There are only a handful of stories that you can tell from the New 52 at DC Comics that are even worth reading. Now, they're really good. I'm not going to deny you that, but almost every character at DC Comics suffered during the New 52, and very, very few of them had anything remotely resembling classic stories during that era. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they just like the image and they like the iconography, but they didn't like the storytelling, because if that's what they're mining for the new DCU, that would be an enormous mistake. But that appears to be part of the new DC Studios logo accidentally teased or released by producer Patrick Schumacher not that long ago. Many of you know that I am not a fan of the Snyderverse. I do not like any of Zack Snyder's DC movies. I know that puts me at odds with a lot of you, and many of you have been able to forgive me for that. But I do not like the Snyderverse at all. I actually explain why Zack Snyder's DCEU failed and how it failed so spectacularly. Hopefully, James Gunn, Peter Safran can learn from the lessons of this enormous, enormous, enormous mistake. you don't see the video here, there's also a link in the video description.